deteriorate. Nobody's maintaining it. The mud bricks, exposed to rain and sun without constant repair, begin to erode. The temple struggles, fewer offerings, fewer priests. The elaborate ceremonies become simpler, then stop altogether. The gods aren't being fed properly, which means the gods are angry. More disasters follow, or people interpret disasters as divine anger, hard to tell which. Droughts, locust swarms, disease outbreaks, each one hits harder because the infrastructure is failing. The Gutians face resistance. The Akkadians who remain fight back. The Elamites to the east push in. Sumerians in the south refuse to submit. But the Gutians hold on, barely, through sheer force and the fact that nobody else can organize enough to drive them out. For over a century, this chaos continues. More than 100 years of Mesopotamia being broken, fractured, suffering. You live through it. Everyone lives through it who doesn't die, which is a lot of people. The population drops. Estimates suggest it falls by more than half. That's how many die or flee. You get older. Your parents die. Not violently, just worn out. Your siblings scatter. One dies from disease. One moves to the marshes. One you just lose track of. You survive by being flexible. You work whatever jobs exist. Sometimes canal maintenance when the Gutians remember it matters. Sometimes farming. Sometimes just scavenging in abandoned houses for anything useful. The social hierarchy collapses. The old distinctions between classes blur. Everyone's just trying to survive. The wealthy lose their wealth. The educated lose their status. Scribes can't find work. Nobody's paying for record keeping anymore. You see tablets being destroyed, used as building material, crushed up for temper in mud bricks, thousands of years of recorded history ground into dust. It's heartbreaking, but also practical. You need bricks more than you need ancient accounts of sheep transactions. The one bright spot is Uruk, down south, far from the Gutian strongholds. The city maintains some independence, keeps its traditions. A leader named Utu Hengal rises there. He starts organizing resistance. It takes time, years, but slowly he builds a coalition, gets other southern cities on board, raises an army, trains them, arms them. Around 2120 BC, Utu Hengal marches north. He meets the Gutians in battle and wins. Actually wins. The Gutians break, retreat. Utu Hengal pursues, drives them out of Mesopotamia, back into their mountains. The occupation ends. The whole region celebrates. It's over. The Dark Age is ending. Mesopotamia is free. You're older now. Your hair's grey. Your back's wrecked from decades of labour. You've survived wars, invasions, famines, chaos. You're still here. Utu Hengal enters your city as a liberator. People line the streets, cheering, crying, grateful. The ziggurat courtyard fills for a ceremony, prayers of thanksgiving, sacrifices to the gods, music and feasting. It feels like rebirth, like Mesopotamia gets a second chance. Utu Hengal doesn't last long. He dies young, drowns in a canal accident apparently. But his successor, a guy named Ur-Nammu, continues the work. Ur-Nammu founds what becomes known as the Third Dynasty of Ur. He reunifies Sumer and Akkad, launches a massive rebuilding campaign. The canals get repaired, the irrigation systems restored, cities are rebuilt. The ziggurat in Ur, the great stepped pyramid dedicated to the moon god Nana, rises again. You watch your city come back to life. The marketplace fills with goods again. Trade resumes. The temple recruits new priests. Ceremonies restart. The government gets reorganized. Provinces with appointed officials. A clever tax system called Bala, where each province contributes goods for just 1 month per year. It spreads the burden, makes it manageable. Sumerian becomes the official language again. Not for speaking, people speak Akkadian now in daily life, but for administration, religion, literature, Sumerian gets revived as a sacred language. This is when the Sumerian king list gets compiled, that famous document listing all the rulers from mythical times to the present. It's propaganda, really, linking the new dynasty to ancient legitimacy. But it works. It gives people continuity, connection to the past. Things improve for a while. But underneath, problems are building. The centralized bureaucracy that worked great under strong rulers becomes bloated and corrupt under weaker ones. Officials skim off the top. Favors get sold. Justice becomes optional if you can't afford bribes. The north, mostly Akkadian-speaking, grows resentful of being ruled from the Sumerian south. Tensions simmer. Worse, the environment is failing. Centuries of irrigation without proper drainage have caused salt to build up in the soil. Salinization. The crops grown in salty soil produce less. Yields drop. Food becomes scarce again. Some scholars think this is what really kills southern Mesopotamia. Not war, not invasion. Salt, too much irrigation, too little drainage, the land itself giving out. New threats emerge. From the west, the Amorites, nomadic tribes pushing into Mesopotamia. From the east, the Elamites again, seeing weakness and opportunity. The last king of the third dynasty, Ibbi-Sin, tries to hold it together, but he's losing control. The Amorites penetrate deeper, trade networks collapse, cities starve. In 2004 BC, the Elamites attack. They capture Ur, sack it, burn it, take Ibbi-Sin prisoner. The third dynasty ends. A poem survives from this time, The Lament for Ur. It's devastating, describes the gods abandoning the city, the walls being breached, the temple being destroyed, mothers fleeing with children, bodies in the streets. On its lofty city gates where walks were taken, dead bodies were lying about. On its boulevards where festivals were celebrated, heads lay scattered. In all its streets where walks were taken, dead bodies were lying about. The era of Sumerian statehood ends. Mesopotamia splinters into smaller kingdoms, many ruled by Amorite dynasties. Power shifts north to cities like Babylon. Sumerian stops being spoken in daily life. It survives only in temples and schools, a sacred language for rituals and scholarship, like Latin in medieval Europe. But Sumerian religion, literature, mathematics, science, all of it gets absorbed by the cultures that follow. The Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, they inherit Sumerian knowledge, build on it, preserve it, pass it forward. Sumer dies as a political entity, but its legacy survives. You won't see the end. You die before 2004 BC. Old age, surrounded by family in a rebuilt house in a restored city. You die thinking civilization survived, that the Dark Age was an aberration, that Sumer will last forever. You're wrong, but you die happy. And in ancient Sumer, dying happy is an achievement. Unlike your warm bed right now, your stable government, your functioning infrastructure, your complete lack of dealing with mountain invaders who don't understand irrigation. You've got it so good you can't even imagine the alternative. The Sumerians lived the alternative. For over a century, they lived through civilization collapsing, through systems failing, through knowledge being lost, and they rebuilt. They tried, they survived as long as they could. That's worth something. That resilience, that determination to continue despite everything. They didn't quit, they kept going right up until the very end. And what they created, The writing, the math, the inventions, the stories outlasted them by thousands of years, outlasted them all the way to you, reading their words, using their tools, living in a world they helped build, connected across 5,000 years. So Sumer ends, not with a bang, more like a slow fade. After 2004 BC, there's no Sumerian state anymore, no Sumerian kings. The language stops being spoken on the streets, the culture gets absorbed into the broader Mesopotamian world. But here's the wild part: Sumer doesn't really die, it just transforms. The Babylonians take over. They're Amorites who've been living in Mesopotamia long enough to pick up the local customs. Their greatest king, Hammurabi, rules around 1750 BC. You've probably heard of him. The law code guy, Hammurabi's famous code of laws, is basically Sumerian law with updates. The Sumerians had legal codes first, written down, public. Hammurabi just refined the system, made it more comprehensive, carved it on a giant stone pillar so everyone could see. Well, everyone who could read Akkadian, which wasn't many people, but the principle mattered. The laws themselves sound familiar if you know Sumerian codes. Punishments for theft, rules about property, regulations for business, standards for medical practice. If a surgeon operates and the patient dies, the surgeon loses his hand. Harsh, but specific. That's Sumerian influence, that idea that law should be written, public, consistent, that justice shouldn't just be whatever the king feels like that day. The Babylonians also keep the Sumerian number system, base 60. They use it for everything: astronomy, mathematics, commerce. The same finger-counting method Sumerians developed becomes the standard across Mesopotamia for centuries. They keep Sumerian literature too. The Epic of Gilgamesh, probably the most famous story from ancient Mesopotamia, is originally Sumerian. Later versions get written in Akkadian, expanded, polished. But the core? Sumerian, a king of Uruk searching for immortality, facing his mortality, learning to accept death. It's beautiful, sad, deeply human, and it survives because scribes kept copying it, generation after generation, preserving it even after Sumerian stopped being spoken. The Assyrians come next, brutal warriors from the north. They build an empire that makes Sargons look small. They conquer Egypt, Anatolia, the Levant. They're famous for their cruelty. They brag about it in their inscriptions, flaying enemies alive, impaling them on stakes. Mass deportations. But you know what they also do? They collect Sumerian texts. King Ashurbanipal of Assyria, around 650 BC, builds a massive library in Nineveh. He sends scribes across Mesopotamia to find and copy ancient texts, Sumerian literature, scientific treatises, medical knowledge, mathematical tablets, astronomical observations. He wants to preserve everything. And he does. His library contains thousands of tablets. When archaeologists excavated Nineveh in the 1800s, they found it all. Still there, still readable, after 2,600 years. That's how we know so much about the Sumerians. Because an Assyrian king, 1,500 years after Sumer fell, decided their knowledge was worth saving. The Persians conquer Mesopotamia in 539 BC. They keep the cuneiform writing system. They keep the administrative methods. They keep the mathematical and astronomical traditions. The Greeks come next, following Alexander the Great in 330 BC. They're fascinated by Mesopotamian astronomy. They learn from Babylonian star charts. They adopt the Sumerian division of circles into 360 degrees. They take the sexagesimal system for measuring time and angles. The Romans inherit it from the Greeks, medieval scholars inherit it from the Romans, and now here you are, 5,000 years after Sumer, still dividing hours into 60 minutes and minutes into 60 seconds because some ancient Mesopotamians liked counting on their finger segments. Wild, right? The wheel, still using it. The plough, modern farming equipment is just fancy ploughs. Beer, still drinking it though now with hops. Soap, still washing with it. Writing, you're literally reading Sumerian legacy right now. Even the idea of cities, of civilization itself, of people living together in large numbers, specializing in different jobs, creating art and literature and science, that's Sumerian. They did it first. They figured out how to make it work. Not perfectly. They had slavery, brutal wars, massive inequality, environmental destruction from over-irrigation, a religious system based on fear, leaders who abused power, but they also had poetry, music, mathematics, astronomy, law codes, schools, libraries, public ceremonies, community gatherings, families who loved each other, people who created beautiful things, thinkers who asked big questions. They were human, fully, completely human, with all the good and bad that implies. And you're connected to them through the tools they invented, the knowledge they discovered, the systems they created, the stories they told. When you check the time on your phone, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours, you're using Sumerian math. When you read anything, books, texts, signs, you're using a descendant of their cuneiform. When you follow laws, attend school, go to work at a specialized job, live in a city, you're participating in structures they pioneered. When you look at the stars and know their patterns, when you calculate areas and volumes, when you drink beer at a gathering, you're echoing Sumerian practices. They're not gone, not really. They're just transformed, absorbed, integrated into everything that came after. You, lying in your comfortable bed right now, are part of that continuity. Part of the long chain of human civilization that started in southern Mesopotamia 6,000 years ago. Think about the distance between you and them. They slept on reed mats that left ridges in their backs. You sleep on a mattress engineered for comfort. They rationed water carefully, drank from clay jars, worried constantly about supply. You have unlimited clean water from a tap. They ate barley and onions every day, with occasional fish or dates if they were lucky. You have a refrigerator full of options from around the world. They worked in 120-degree heat with no protection. You have climate control. They faced diseases with no understanding of germs, no antibiotics, no modern medicine. A cut could kill you. Childbirth was a death sentence for many women. You have hospitals, doctors, vaccines. They lived under the constant threat of war, invasion, starvation, divine punishment. You have stability, security, safety nets. They died young. Average life expectancy maybe 30 or 40 years if you were lucky. You'll probably live twice that long. The gap between their daily reality and yours is enormous, staggering, almost incomprehensible, and yet they survived. They created, they built, they thought, they loved, they tried. In the face of brutal conditions, they made beauty. In the face of uncertainty, they made knowledge. In the face of mortality, they made things that would outlast them. The ziggurat of Ur still stands, eroded, damaged, but there. You can visit it. You can climb the same steps Sumerian priests climbed 4,000 years ago. The tablets survive, hundreds of thousands of them, in museums, in collections, being studied, translated, revealing more about Sumerian life every year. The innovations persist, the ideas continue, the legacy lives. They succeeded, not in the way they imagined. They thought their cities would last forever, that their gods would always be worshipped, that Sumer would endure, but they succeeded in a deeper way. They contributed to the great human project, the ongoing effort to understand the world, to create meaning, to build something larger than individual lives. Every scribe who carefully pressed cuneiform into clay, every farmer who improved irrigation techniques, every mathematician who solved a new problem, every musician who composed a song, every parent who taught their child, every person who got up each morning and tried to make their corner of the world a little better. They all contributed, they all mattered, their efforts accumulated into civilization. And that continues. Through you, through everyone alive now, taking what came before, adding to it, passing it forward. You're not separate from the Sumerians, you're downstream from them, connected by an unbroken chain of human effort spanning millennia. So when you feel stressed about your problems, your work, your relationships, your struggles, remember the Sumerians. They dealt with so much worse, and they kept going. When you feel grateful for your comforts, your bed, your food, your safety, remember the Sumerians. They would be amazed by what you have, literally amazed. You live like their kings couldn't even imagine. When you feel small and insignificant, remember the Sumerians. Individual people whose names we'll never know, whose lives seemed ordinary to them, contributed to something vast and enduring. You're part of that too. Your life matters. Your efforts contribute. Your existence is part of the ongoing human story. The Sumerians started something. You're continuing it. Others will follow you. The chain continues. So rest now in your comfortable bed, your safe room, your peaceful night. Feel the mattress beneath you, soft, supportive, nothing like a reed mat. Feel the blanket, warm, clean, nothing like scratchy wool. Feel the security, the walls, the locks, the absence of threats. Breathe deeply. Clean air, controlled temperature, no dust storms, no searing heat. Your stomach's full, your thirst is quenched, your body's safe, your future's relatively secure. You're okay, more than okay. You're blessed with comforts the Sumerians couldn't conceive of. And somewhere, across the vast distance of time, maybe they'd be happy about that. Happy that humanity got here, that their efforts and sacrifices contributed to a world where people sleep safely, eat well, live long. Maybe they'd be proud of what we built on their foundation, of how far we've come, or maybe they'd just want a soft mattress and a cold drink. Hard to say. Either way, you're here now, safe, comfortable, connected to them through the long chain of human civilization. Rest well, sleep deeply, and maybe tomorrow, when you use their math or benefit from their innovations, think of them kindly. The Sumerians, the first civilization, the ones who started this whole wild journey. They did their part. Now close your eyes and rest in the world their efforts helped create.